Because we've got such visionary people up on this stage, I did want to ask a question about leadership. And there's a quote from Brene Brown, who I love. She's a behavioral scientist out of the University of Houston. And she asked this question, and it's one that I ask myself every time I make a decision, which is, are you playing not to lose, or are you playing to win? And the women up here definitely play to win, and they lead teams that play to win. But I also know that it's noisy, and more leaders left last year than ever before because of the amount of pressure in this day and age. And almost over 70% have said that they're exhausted, that the pace of change is just too fast. So I wanted to ask a question about focus. And there's a Steve Jobs quote that I'm going to read to you because I think it's important and it's something to keep in mind. And Jobs said, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. You have to pick carefully. I'm actually as proud of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. So my question, with all of the infinite things that come up, is how do you decide what not to chase? Where do you focus your energy to drive real impact? And Stephanie, I'm going to start with you.
I love this question, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about always be experimenting, right? You need to have little experiments going on where you're testing things and learning and either saying that didn't work and we're not going to do it anymore, or this is working great and we're going to put more resources behind it. You know, in my time at RBFF, we were constantly experimenting. And one of the things that we did, in 2013, we launched the industry's first Spanish language campaign to get more Hispanic anglers and boaters into the market. It was called Vamos a Pescar. And the first 5, 6, even 7 years of that campaign, it went gangbusters. It was amazing. And then the consumer behavior started to shift. And what we were seeing in our data was people were coming to Vamos a Pescar, reading like one thing, and then hopping over to Take Me Fishing. Or they were coming to the social channel, they were coming in that way, and then hopping over to Take Me Fishing. So, you know, at that point we had to make the decision like, okay, we don't necessarily need a whole site just dedicated to that. We need a core amount of content to serve the bilingual consumer who wants, you know, kind of the technical information in Spanish and then everything else in English. But it's little things like that. We launched a TikTok channel as well. And this is an example of when to do something. I was 100% skeptical, you guys. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm like, TikTok, fishing on TikTok? Like, what? My team was like, no, let us test this. We think we have the right formula. And they did a bunch of research. God, that thing went berserk. But again, we tested it. We tried it out, and we learned we had to have a mix of educational content with entertainment content, and it went crazy. So I'm all about the test, learn, iterate.
So Natasha, you talked to me about focus groups and how you use focus groups as something that you do focus your energy on, whereas other things you may not.
So we absolutely. So we're having a focus group in March at the facility. So I want to know how our customers are using the boats, how they want to use the boats, what we need to do differently. And I want to take that information and make really intentional decisions as to modifications that we need to make to the brand. I want to say too, like I just went to Dusseldorf and I walked through and there's a ton of innovation on boats. Some things I found somewhat gimmicky. We're not going that direction. And I think luxury brands need to not be gimmicky. Everything that they do has to portray, I keep saying the same thing, craftsmanship, attention to detail, but that's really critical. But as far as like trying new things, I think it's great to try new things. And we're doing all sorts of different things for marketing. But as a leader, you have to be fast to be able to say, that was not right, and step back. And I mean, I think that's critical. Try, test everything, but don't have so much pride or so much, you can have such a personal affection for something, and you've created and you're so excited, and then you're like, well, shit fire, like nothing's happening here. You have to, and you know what, I was so nervous about coming up here, and I was talking to our board, and I say shit fire all the time, and they're like just say shit fire. I'm like, it's not gonna come up. I mean, oh my god, it came out anyway. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. Okay, so my point is, you have got to be able to say, I made a mistake, pivot, and go into a different direction. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether, we're trying a new system out on the boat, or we're trying a new TikTok video, which I don't even have TikTok, but it sounds really enticing. You've got to be able to go and then pivot quickly.
Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. And Abby, you said to me, focus is not about doing less work. It's about doing the right work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's along what they both just said here, right? Also being willing to fail fast and pivot. We say pivot a lot. I'm looking at Kylie over here. It's her to say pivot years and years and years. But yeah, it's about what to focus on, and it's about clearing out the noise and saying, we know that this is what is going to benefit our customer, our team member, and our stakeholders, right? If we can touch those three pieces and know it'll be successful with those three pieces, that's how we look at what we're going to focus on.
Yeah, and Lauren, you talked to me about investment, and it's investment of time, of passion, of resources. So if you want to...
Yeah, well, I really like what's been said. We're all making hard trade-offs right now, and it feels like things aren't adding up. And I think one of the reasons it feels like things aren't adding up is because this is the fastest change cycle we've ever seen in both the macro and consumers. And so if you think about the situation that we're in, where almost every day you have to pivot. How do you do that? And with optimized or best situation in terms of where you invest. I think you mitigate your risks. You do test and learn. You don't go all in on something. So I everything the group has said really resonates with me. But I do think at the end of the day, the way that we see this show up in our day-to-day is, where are we putting our money? Where are we putting our time, our energy? And I'm sure all of you guys are working with your teams to kind of adjust this way, but agile teaming models get your teams comfortable with the idea that every single day I reserve the right to change my mind.
Exactly. And I have a life coach that I work with, and she said, you need to curate your time like you'd curate an art exhibit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's really important.